Uh, Over the past 5 years, the role of data in my work has changed massively. So I'll share three areas where it has had the biggest impact. Fraud detection with AI and ML, and then cost efficiency through real-time analytics, and then monitoring production issues more proactively. So let's start with the fraud detection. A few years ago, it was pretty basic. So simple rules like flag it if the device changes or alert if someone adds a new page. It worked, but it couldn't adapt to new fraud techniques. Now with AI and machine learning, it's way smarter. These systems not only recognize new patterns in real time, but we also engineer features like median or maximum amount transferred to a beneficiary in the last 90 days, or the average transaction size by a customer. So these features helps model learn what normal looks like and flag what it isn't. So it's like going from a fixed CCTV camera to a smart security guard who understands behavior patterns. Second, real-time analytics has made decision making much faster. So we can instantly spot inefficiencies like overspending on unused cloud environments or paying vendors for something we can now build in-house. So this helps cut costs even at the infrastructure or project level. And third and final, the monitoring has become far more proactive. So with tools like AppDynamics, Grafana, and Dynatrace, we see what's happening in production as it unfolds. Add a bit of AI on top, and now we can predict potential failures, like knowing a system is about to slow down or crash and fixing it before users even notice. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Manoj. And just to summarize, I think you've mentioned three very important areas, which is failure prediction, super important, fraud detection, and cost efficiency. And indeed, we're now with the help of machine learning and AI, we're doing unthinkable stuff on those three areas. So yeah, thank you so much. Okay. So the next question I'd like to address to Samita, and the question is this: Can you share a moment where data significantly changed the direction of a product or project you were working on? What made that shift possible? Was it tooling, was that team culture, or access to new data? Please, Samita.
Yeah, interesting question, Basam. So I'm going to use a experience I had about a couple of years ago. So I was in an organization that was developing client-facing mobile applications to large telecom operators in the world. So one of these telecom operators, we've been working for about 2 to 3 years, had this client-facing application with about 1 million users. And at that point, we were doing about 2 to 3 million transactions on the platform itself. And over time, the client felt the need to do a bit of a revamp. So this revamp was part UI and part functionality, which was a client requirement. So, well, of course, we did the UI revamp and the functionality we deployed to the public, and we were observing the data that we collected via the application itself. We were able to notice certain areas that were previously used by the majority of the users are not being used, or some of those functionalities actually weren't even touched. So that concerns us deeply. We collected further information, tried to analyze it, and then in the same time, we started collecting client complaints saying that they felt the previous version is better. They didn't like the new version or something like that. But these comments were not very specific to kind of pinpoint where the issue is coming from. But given that we had the data at hand, we identified certain APIs used on certain functionalities were at times sluggish. And we collected information on that. We reached those different teams who were kind of building those APIs for us. We were able to have productive discussions with those teams with the evidence that we had at hand. And we were able to convince them to do the API as again. And certain APIs we kind of got consolidated into one so that the performance is going to be more improved. We launched the application again after about 2 to 3 months to the general public. The acceptance was far greater. We saw those functionalities being started used again, and client comments were absolutely, in general, really happy. So if I were to talk about what made this change possible. Having the data at hand made all the difference. If we had to wait till the client feedbacks at that time, there would be reputation damage, revenue damage at that point. But we were proactive in our actions, and also having a culture where we could openly talk to our colleagues, different departments, and then have these productive meetings where we could convince them, yeah, there's a change required, made a whole lot of a difference as well. So altogether, those things made this experience a positive one.
Got it. Thanks, Samitha. And again, just to sum up for the team, your great example of the project revamp with non-specific comments from the client, and basically the way you addressed the issue, the way you tackled it was basing on the data-driven evidences, which allowed you to improve the application to launch it successfully. And two key things are number one, data, and number two, culture. I couldn't agree more. I mean, all those things are really driving our projects to either success or to a failure. So yeah, thank you, Samitha. Great answer. Now, next question will go to Manoj once again. And the question is, when developing products, which types of data, such as behavioral, transactional, or third party, offer the greatest value today and why? How do you prioritize them, Manoj?
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. And very relevant question again to the times we are living in. So honestly, the type of data that offers the most value really depends on the product you are building and the kind of data your organization actually has access to. So it also depends on scale. Larger organizations might already have deep behavioral or transactional data sets, while others might rely on third-party sources. So take credit scoring or fraud detection, for example. So behavioral and transactional data are absolute game changers here. So behavioral data tracks how people interact, how they type, swipe, or navigate an app. If someone suddenly logs in at 3 a.m. from a different device and heads straight to high value transactions, that's a red flag. So it's like identifying someone by their digital body language, not just their login credentials. This kind of insight helps apps detect fraud in real time. Credit scoring is another great use case. Let's say a student doesn't have a credit card but pays rent and phone bills on time every month. So that's very valuable behavioral data. It tells us they are financially responsible even if traditional credit history is missing. Transactional data is just as powerful. So it shows spending patterns, frequency, and anomalies. If someone usually buys groceries on weekends, but suddenly makes an expensive purchase in a foreign country, that stands out. So you are basically following the money trail to catch unusual behavior. Third party data also plays a key role, especially when internal data is limited. So data from telcos, utility providers, or even e-commerce platforms can help fill in the gaps, giving lenders or product teams a more complete view of new users or thin file customers. So finally, there are companies, I mean, like Credit Vidya, which are doing incredible work in this space. They help banks like RBL, HDFC, ICICI, or Indian banks use third-party behavioral and transactional data like mobile usage or e-wallet habits to evaluate credit worthiness. It's especially useful for first-time borrowers or people outside the formal credit system. So in terms of prioritization, I would say start with what you already have. But if you are building anything customer facing and risk sensitive, behavioral, transactional, and trusted third party data should all be part of your toolkit. Thank you.
Thanks, Manoj. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And as you said, there is no one size fits all. Like we can't define which data is good for everyone. It's not working like that. As you said, start with what you have and take it from there. So basically, my addition to that would be for every project owner, for every product owner, you have to think what type of data you need uh, at hand so that you can drive your project to the success. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Again,
Yes.
thanks, Manoj.
Yep. Of course.
And let's now go to our next question, which will go to Alan Riwaju. And the question is, For product and engineering teams, what frameworks or habits help you work effectively with data teams to turn insights into outcomes?
Yeah. Hi everybody. I will firstly apologize for if you hear any background noise. Then apologies for that. Yeah. So I'd say first off, when we look at frameworks such as experimentational frameworks, your A/B testing, these are things that first off you are looking to get feedback. You are looking to test a certain feature, and data is what shifts a lot of decision making when you are testing such a framework, right? You have to separate landing pages. You are testing a sign-on button on one of those landing pages, and you have to separate pages. You need to have that collaboration with the data to collect that, your data team, your data analyst, to collect that data, to leverage on it, and then to make decisions on it, right? I'd say another thing is having an embedded data analyst or whatever in your team. So, for example, I lead a team of very heavy back end developers, right? And it's an instance that back end tables are managed by back end developers, but that is the source of our data mostly, right? So we need to have that embedding of the data analyst within the team so that we can work collaboratively together to make sure that when you are creating your data pipeline, are you doing it in collaboration with your backend developers that are managing these backend tables? So it's important to have that embedment in your team, yeah. And I'd say having a mindset of more outcome based than a feature based outcome now. That way you are setting clear targets, you are setting clear KPIs. That way you have something to track. You are working with that data team or data analyst to understand that we are setting certain KPIs. We can't track this. It helps the team monitor progress, monitor product success, feature success, and things like that. Yeah. So those three, I'd say, are very important frameworks to leverage on.
Thanks. And again, I tend to agree. You mentioned collaboration, and I think that that's core for basically any project team. So as you said, base decisions on the data or open up the chest. So don't keep it to yourself. Collaborate, collaborate, collaborate. And the final one that you mentioned, KPIs and clear documented tracking system. So yeah, fully agree. I think that all makes sense. Thank you. The next one goes once again to Manoj, and the question is, from an engineering lens, what are the toughest technical challenges of building scalable, compliant data systems, and how are you tracking them, Manoj?
Thanks. Yeah. So again, I think very relevant question, and I would say there are multiple challenges, and I will take one real time example. I mean, which can be related with all of us. So I'll take production log analysis, right? So now we have multiple services which are running in production, and we are getting logs from them. So these production log analysis can be used to understand customer behavior, running analytics, or diagnosing production incidents. Now, this data usually comes from multiple services, as I said, that and then those services could be modern or they could be legacy systems. So this means the data is huge, messy, and inconsistent in nature. So to handle this, we use a Kafka-based pipeline. So logs from services are published to Kafka, and then downstream systems like ELK, Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana consume it for real-time monitoring and analysis. So Kafka helps us scale and also decouples producers and consumers, so which is critical for flexibility. So one of the biggest technical challenges is that every service has its own request response schema. So do we enforce a generic schema? So that could simplify processing, but too much flexibility leads to chaos. And too much rigidity becomes unusable. So we follow a balanced approach. We allow some schema flexibility, but ask teams to follow a few core standards when publishing data. So that way, analytics doesn't break and onboarding new services remains feasible. Another big challenge is compliance. So especially with sensitive data. So logs often contain personal identifiers. So we make sure to mask or redact sensitive fields before publishing to ELK. So it's a critical step, not just for privacy, but to stay compliant with data regulations like GDPR or local data laws. And finally, there is the issue of data retention. So regulations might require you to store logs for a specific duration, say 90 days or even a year, and some regulations require you even 7 years. But you may not need all the data for analysis. So, so what we can do is we can separate hot and cold storage and set up archival strategies to meet regulatory needs without clogging up our analytical systems. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Manoj. Yeah, again, um, thanks for a detailed answer. I just will sum for everyone sort of three key things, three key takeaways. Challenge number one is, as you said, based on the logs example, the nature of data like that is it's messy, and if you want to navigate, you need to be able to navigate that sort of data mess. Number two is compliance, because user data, personal data is there. So GDPRs, we all know the story. So that's challenge number two. And number three, data retention is also a way, sort of, or a direction to look at. So again, thank you so much. Very, very interesting answer. The
Thanks,
next
Prashant.
question. Thank you. The next question goes to Samita, and the question is, the phrase data is the new oil suggests data is a raw resource that powers innovation. Do you agree with this analogy in the context of fintech and big tech? And what aspects of it hold true, and where does it fall short? Samita.
Yeah. So what distinguishes companies that successfully turn data into a lasting competitive edge? I'm going to say they focus more on actionable insights. So dealing with data can be really complicated, sometimes even being confused. So organizations that laser focus on actionable insights is going to get the upper hand. Um, when you collect insights, you will see certain things that you can do in the next couple of sprints or the month. Those things should get priority. There can be certain interesting things that you could do later. Those things can definitely be part of the backlog that you maintain. So having that actionable insights up front is going to make a whole lot of a difference. And secondly, connecting those actionable insights to a decision-making loop, I would say, is going to make a difference on collecting the information and then launching it to the end user or the public. So those actionable insights should be connected to a decision-making loop, for example, product managers or VPs who could actually do something about it, and then prioritize those important actionable insights is going to be critical. Thirdly, having a culture that is supportive of cross-functional collaboration is going to be pretty important as well. For example, if you take the call centers to the product owners, the sales team, the engineers who develop it, all of them should feel safe, and they should not feel that actionable insights are going to turn into finger pointing like, oh, this is the engineering fault, or is this is something to do with the sales team. They should feel part of a single team who's going to use these actionable insights and convert them into features or solutions that is going to put them at the top of the service ladder and ahead of the competition. So building that culture in an organization for like senior managers or C-level people, I think that's a key point to take away.
Thanks,
And
Samita.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, go ahead.
finally, finally, I'm going to say, it's not going to be about the data that they have. It's going to be about how fast, how smart, and how collaboratively they can act on.
I fully agree, and again, we hear the word collaboration, we hear the word team, and just to give everyone a few highlights. So you said having actionable insights upfront makes all the difference, right? So that's very crucial, I think, and this insight should be prioritized, obviously, so that they can be actioned. And as you said, a sense of safety, so no finger pointing. No one should feel that those insights will be used against. So they will be used to improve, not against. Thanks, Samita. Thank you. The next one goes to Maxim, and here's the question. What are the essential data literacy or technical skills tomorrow's fintech and big tech workforce should build, whether they are in product, design, engineering, or leadership? Maxim.
Yeah, thanks, Rustam. Let me keep it simple and highlight just one as the skill, I would say. If you want to work with data in any role, you need to build data intuition. Working with data isn't just about like, writing queries, building pipelines, or anything like that. It's actually about knowing when something feels off, asking the right questions about the data. Like couple of examples. Learn to spot when something doesn't look right. This is about trusting your instincts. Just because the chart is going up and to the right doesn't necessarily means that it's correct or even good. Pause and ask, always ask, does this make sense? Sometimes just being the person in a room who is willing to scrutinize the data can catch a problem early and could be like a super helpful for the team. Always ask what is the story behind the numbers. Every data and chart you see tells a story, but usually it's just a part of it, just one chapter of it. Always ask who collected this data, what is missing, what we're measuring, what we are not measuring, and that we should be. And like what is also important, like pattern of working with data is to be able to debug data, to know where it comes from. You don't have to be a data engineer for that, but just general understanding, general knowledge, how to trace a metric back to its source. What does it actually measure? What assumption went into it? Are there any like known gaps? And so I would say that's like just this general work with data, uh, this data curiosity and like deep understanding can spot issues early and like and ask the right follow-up questions to the metrics, to the data, make a huge impact usually on anything from any role, from design, product, or leadership. And I would say that the final outcome of this behavior for the team, it's like super huge impactful. It's the team itself can make more effective decisions with just right questions. So don't just aim to be data driven, but aim to be data aware, data curious, and not afraid to ask stupid questions, why or how, before acting, making any decisions based on data. Thanks.
Thanks, Maxim. And just, for everyone to highlight one thing, I think you said data intuition, right? So this is something like go beyond the pure data mining, bathing in numbers is nice, but it's not enough. And as you said, asking the right questions. What's the story behind the numbers? What is missing? So basically connecting the dots. That's very, very important. And I couldn't agree more. Thank you, Maxim. The next one goes to Samitha, and the question is, how do you ensure responsible data use, especially balancing innovation, privacy, compliance, and customer trust? Samitha.
Yeah, pretty interesting and I think sensitive question. So in the present world, as end users, we are all concerned about our privacy, what information is collected, and then how it going to impact us. So I'm going to say the primary principle for any organization who collects data should be just because they could collect data does not mean that they should collect data. So I would promote a principle, something like that, privacy by design. That means at the beginning of the product design stage, they should be thinking of how they are going to collect information, how they store it, how much they can anonymize so that we don't collect information that is linked to an end user. And then, of course, how could they minimize the data collection itself because they don't want to collect information that they don't use or process at the end of the day. And also considering frameworks such as regulatory frameworks such as GDPR is going to be important. So my advice for organizations or product users is that GDPR compliance should not be like a tick box that they tick and say like, oh yeah, we are GDPR compliance, but it should be more of a guideline for customer trust, saying that, hey, we are GDPR compliance. We give you full transparency into what information we collect, how we save, and how we use it. So be comfortable on using our product. So that should be the message the product creators should be taking to their end users. And these controls or options should not be buried under settings. It should be upfront where anyone can find it, and maybe even the product creators could remind the end users like, hey, periodically check your settings, make sure you are comfortable on what we collect and how we use it. And finally, I would also say within an organization that collects information, there should be a culture where everyone could raise their voice if they are not happy with what they're collecting. So anyone in the team should be able to kind of question, hey, why are we collecting this information? We are not using it, or can we collect this information anonymously so that it does not impact end user directly? So I think those are the main points that we need to consider.
Yeah.
Thinking about ethic. And finally, responsible data use, is it going to be a blocker for innovation? It should be a foundation to build trust and growth, have organic growth.
Right, right. Thank you, Samita. And again, couldn't agree more. Privacy by design, you said. So if you can collect the data, doesn't mean that you should collect the data, right? So yeah, agree. Privacy by design. The last one, everyone. So the last question will go to Maxime, and the question is, what's one underrated or overlooked aspect of working with data in tech that more people should pay attention to, and how can teams start addressing it more proactively? What's a myth about working with data in fintech or big tech that you wish more people would stop believing, Maxime?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Rustam. Actually, I have like two, not one, but two things. And probably it's not myth, but just important things that I wanted to highlight. First, yeah. So first of all, the thing that I wanted, that I wish more people talked about, that most data problems, it's like actually they aren't technical, they are more people problems. Most of the data and broader people like from tech focuses on data work, but often the real issues come from misunderstanding what business success is, what their main metrics really means, team using slightly different definitions, like all these collaboration issues, actually, I would say, like chasing metrics that looks good but don't reflect what actually matters, like these gross like issues with linking with business objectives. Yeah, and I'm like I have seen it over and over, and unfortunately keep seeing it. Most recently, like a couple of days ago, yeah. And at companies I have worked with, every new project starts the same way. Well, we pick a small set of high level metrics, tie them to business goals, and start tracking success. We align on how we're defined, how they're calculated, what slices matter, and who owns what. We try to be thoughtful upfront, but here where problems often begin. Different teams and leadership, and usually leadership as well, aren't fully aligned on what is being measured on or what the goals actually are, how data is used. And that's why it's critical to over communicate. So my first point is about over communication. This is like, I would say, slightly underrated. Yeah, you need to over communicate within the team, with your partners and leads, align deeply with everyone involved, highlight edge cases, walk through the current values and trends, explain what's driving like all this stuff. Make sure that's everything on the same ground. What's happened usually next? As time goes on, teams gets better at optimizing for the metric, and that's when crack starts to show. The metric becomes easy to game, or it's just missing some edge cases. It just like usually stop being that useful as it was at the beginning. When this happens, like the important, don't panic. Just regroup with our partners and just define better metrics. And that's super crucial for the tech because tech moves fast. Project and data and user behavior change quickly. And that's why your success criteria, your metrics have to change with them and stay business oriented. And that's like, I would say, the most important. Move fast, be willing to reset, be the person who says, this no longer works, let's rethink. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Maxim. Yeah, very, very good and detailed answer. Thank you. So, you said very interesting things. So most data problems aren't technical, but people generated. And the examples you gave us, such as misalignment or lack of communication, I think these are great example. And finally, you mentioned that, as you said, tech moves fast, so embrace the change and move fast as well. Yeah, thank you so much. And thanks everyone. So I think we are right on time. We've been starting 10 minutes late, so we're doing okay. To wrap it all up, unless everyone or anyone has a question, I will say that data is indeed the fuel powering a fintech future, driving strategy, innovation, the competitive edge. AI, real-time analytics, and regulation have shaped decision making, and we're doing the unthinkable. If we look 10 years back, like who could even think that we will be able to do things we do right now with the data? So making data literacy essential for every role is key. But with great power comes great responsibility. So we must balance innovation with privacy, compliance, and trust to build a sustainable digital economy. Thank you, everyone. And I'll give the floor back to Alyssa. Thank you.
Thank you, Rustam. Thank you, everyone.
Well, dear attendees, so there's the end of the second panel session. Many thanks to all our speakers for their valuable insights and great discussions, and to the audience for your attention. I hope this conversation has sparked some new ideas and given you food for thoughts. And yes, I can also say, if you have any questions, you feel free to write them down, and we will ask them. But now I will translate it in Russian. Итак, дорогие участники, подходим к завершению нашей второй панельной сессии. Всем большое спасибо за присутствие, за внимание и интерес, и спикерам за ценные мысли и живую дискуссию. Так, если есть какие-то вопросы, пожалуйста, пишите в чат. Well, now I do not see any questions. Let me double check it in the chat. Yes, there is no questions. Well, then I think that we can begin to our conclusion. Thank you so much, everyone, for your attention. So our conference summit is coming to the end. So I hope that you're living with some new ideas, inspiration, and some connections. And let's meet again next time. Всем спасибо большое за участие, за присутствие. Наша конференция подходит потихоньку к концу. Так, if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Thanks, everyone. It was really good. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. Thank you, Rustam. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.